This is evening time, so good evening or good night. Some of you might be sleeping already. But I'm going to show you how I do my makeups on my wire. I solder all my stuff. That way it's a for sure joint, not going to come loose. Not saying crimp joints come loose. But there's always that possibility. We've had to fix quite a few crimp joints because of the movement. A crimp is when you crimp something and the vibration on a bigger wire. I mean, it's either one or the other, and I always solder mine. So, ready? So a lot of people crimp these instead of soldering because it is a lot easier. And a lot of people take a razor knife and try to cut this around so it fits in this type of fitting. This is your terminal here. What I found best, these are just like plastic cutters, mainly for PEC. And so if you just take that in there and stick it in there and run it around, you get a nice clean circle cut. And then just take it and twist it together a little bit. This is like a water-soluble flux, so water kind of takes it off. So I just put a little bit of that on there. And then just make sure all your wires go in there. But before we do that, let's slide on the shrink wrap so we're not forgetting it. And that just slides on there just like that. We can put this up here. But these are a couple of the other ones that I've already did. And what I do is just take a little notch in a board. Because this is what it looks like on the end. Just like this. I solder it, then do the shrink wrap. But so like you just take that right there, make sure it's in there good. And then this is 50-50 solder. This is 95.5. This is more lead than that. For drinking water, it's illegal to use the 50-50 anymore because of contaminants. But for this, it don't really matter. Wow. So I just take the little torch here. It's when you're heating something, just like soldering copper or something. All you need to do is hold it in one spot. You don't need to move it around and stuff like that. Just remember, once you start heating it gets pretty hot, so don't touch it.
You're going to burn my chair.
Just the whole loop I could have cut. Okay, there we go. The whole weight of that's trying to pull it over there. But you just kind of hold it in one spot, and when you do that, it heats up the inside and it sucks, so it creates like a vacuum. So once it's hot enough, it will actually pull all your solder in, and you can just keep touching it here. Once it's ready, it'll just start melting real easy. And this solder, once it melts, it goes all the way down. It'll fill this whole cavity here. So it's melting in there right now. So you can see it melting. So what that's doing is just filling that whole cavity with hot solder. That way it's an actual solder joint, just kind of like they do in TVs and all your electronics and all that. It's actually a solder joint. And you can see when it kind of starts getting filled up. You just kind of let your torch go, and then it starts cooling off, and it'll still take solder because it's still pretty hot. And then what you do is just take a piece of wet cloth real quick and kind of cool it. That kind of stabilizes your solder. And then what I do is just take a bucket of water, dip it down in there real quick, and that cools it. Just take a clean rag and kind of wipe it off a little bit, and you can see the solder down in there, so it's a good, it's solid, so it's kind of like a weld, soldering similar to welding. And then your shrink wrap just goes right up over it. Set it back in your board just kind of holds it in place, sort of. And then you just take it and heat your shrink wrap up. Just like that. So that's, and then just remember when you solder, everything's hot. So that's your joint right there. It's all covered up. Just like that. So these are all soldered joints, so it's just like a welded joint, so it's not like a crimp joint. Just another way to do it if you don't have the crimper. So it's just another way to do it if you don't have the crimper tool, because they're kind of expensive, especially the good hydraulic ones. They do have hammer ones where you have a hammer and hit a tool and it kind of crimps it, and then they got the hydraulic ones. And this is just a solder one. You can get solder in a torch and do 50 of these fittings for pretty reasonable cost. So there you go. It's getting late, getting dark. Time to go. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.